Now, I could just do exactly what I did with the other piece, lay my bars down, spread dark chocolate, and cut out my piece if that's what I wanted. But let's get a little fancier here. Suppose we wanted to not only capture this sheen, but also create some kind of pattern on our piece. We have all kinds of options by playing with milk chocolate, white chocolate, dark chocolate, laying down various patterns of those three. We can even create colored chocolates by using powdered pigments, mixing them in with white chocolate or with cocoa butter. We can get patterns that way. So let's look at a couple of ways that we might be able to create a pattern. One that's often useful in pieces is a wood grain pattern. So let's take a look at how that works. We're going to use a special tool that wasn't designed for food at all. This was actually designed for painters who wanted to create a false wood grain pattern on woodwork. And this is the French version. The French version of this tool looks like this, but you can actually purchase something similar, a relative of this, from the Home Depot or from other paint stores. It doesn't look quite like this. It has the same concentric ring pattern on a piece of rubber, but the American version typically is only about that wide, and it comes on a handle. The principle for the use is exactly the same though. This is used to actually create first a wood grain pattern out of dark chocolate. So our strategy here is going to be first to create on this sheet of plastic a wood grain pattern in dark chocolate, and it'll have a lot of open spaces. The lines of the wood grain will be in dark chocolate, but what we're then going to do is spread white chocolate behind it to create a contrast between dark lines so you actually see them. And the same strategy works for all patterns. Basically what you would want to do is create first a pattern in the darker chocolate that you're using, and then back it up with a lighter tone of chocolate, because remember that whatever pattern you create here is going to be seen from the other side. You're going to eventually flip this whole thing over and peel this plastic sheet away. So you're basically building it up from the front out. So first you'll lay down the pattern, and then you'll lay down a contrasting chocolate to provide contrast to the pattern. This wood grain thing is quite easy, but the difficult thing about it is you have to work extremely quickly, because the chocolate is going to try to set on you as you're trying to make the pattern. You want the wood grain pattern to actually be very, very thin, and because you're working with tempered chocolate, it sets very, very quickly. So you have to work unbelievably fast. One thing that helps you gain a little bit of time is to warm up the wood grain tool so that the chocolate doesn't try to freeze in those grooves and keep you from making the pattern. So we're just going to take the chill off of it here. Again, you want to just bring it up to the point where when you touch it, it no longer feels cold to the touch. You don't want to actually get it warm, or it will untemper the chocolate as you're creating the pattern. So now when I touch it, it basically feels neutral in temperature. The first step in creating the pattern is to smear some dark chocolate just to create a very, very thin haze of chocolate on our surface here, and then we'll hit it with the tool. Because it's going to go so quickly, let me explain how the tool is used before the time actually comes. It doesn't really matter how the tool is oriented. The smaller circles can be towards you, they can be away from you, it doesn't really matter. But once you've created this smear, this haze of dark chocolate on the surface, you're going to put down the tool and you're going to smear it through that haze, and as it moves, you're going to very, very slowly rock it back and forth as it moves along. And you can kind of do that rocking in a random, slow pattern. The mistake most people make when they do this pattern is by rocking it too quickly. They do something like this as they move along, and that really doesn't create a natural looking wood grain pattern at all. I'm going to put I'm going to put a side towel under my board here to keep it from trying to slide along as I work. Again, this has to happen very, very quickly. So you need to get all your stuff together and within reach before you actually apply any chocolate to the board. I need something to spread the chocolate thinly with. In this case, I'm going to use my drywall knife, and I have my tool here for creating the pattern. And I begin by putting down a line of chocolate, quickly spreading it thinly with my drywall knife. That's about as much as I need, and it really needs to be about that thin. And then I create my pattern with the tool. So each rocking of the tool produces one of these little bullseye effects. So if you rock it too radically as it's moving along, you just create a row of these in quick succession, and it looks more like a chain than actual wood grain. And you can see here that the chocolate is already starting to try to freeze up in the grooves of my tool. So now if I were to try to reuse it again with the chocolate blocked up in here, it wouldn't produce the pattern at all, because basically the grooves are now gone. So I really only have one shot at making that pattern. And if I wanted to use this again, I would have to go and wash out the grooves and then very, very carefully dry them. But this is all I need to actually create the pattern, just for the demonstration purposes. Now obviously I can't spread dark chocolate over that, or otherwise when it's flipped over and the plastic is removed, there'll be no pattern, because the dark chocolate would fill in all of our spaces here. To actually fill in the spaces, I need white chocolate over the back of this. You'll find yourself using white chocolate a lot for various decoration effects in your piece, and to provide contrast and just give some relief to the dull brown monotony of dark chocolate. But keep in mind that white chocolate doesn't have much structural strength, because it has all of this dairy fat mixed in with the cocoa butter, and the dairy fat interferes with the crystallization of the cocoa butter. White chocolate and milk chocolate never set quite as hard as dark chocolate, so they won't bear quite the structural load that dark chocolate will. Also, white chocolate is considerably more expensive than dark chocolate because it has a whole bunch of cocoa butter. So in creating our pattern here, I don't want, let's say I want to end up with a slab that's 1/4 of an inch thick. I'm not going to try to, basically here in the wood grain pattern itself, I have 0 thickness. So I need a 1/4 inch of chocolate behind this to create a slab that I can actually work with in my piece. But I'm not going to get that entire 1/4 inch using white chocolate. I could put 1/4 inch bars down here and spread white chocolate 1/4 inch thick, and I would have my 1/4 inch slab, but it would all be white chocolate back there, and white chocolate isn't very strong to work with. And it's also an unnecessary expense. But I do need white chocolate to set off the pattern.